Hello everybody, I am going to be doing a very informal talk about Rooted in Reading and the series that the whole program that we're going to be talking about. First of all, I want to thank Ms. Courthouse because she's had faith in us. We've told her that we like this, we've told her it's good, and she went out on a limb and has bought the program for us and has bought all of our books. So that's saying that she's got a lot of faith in us, and we want to show her that she has faith in the right places. But I'm going to do, it's just going to be an informal talk. We're just going to talk about how to do Rooted in Reading. Now, you're going to see 2 or 3 different examples because everybody needs to put this to their own teaching style, but I'm just going to give you an overview. The first thing is, of course, you're going to have it in Drive, and we can talk about how to get to Drive. You're going to be your shared, it goes going under your shared Drive, and have them and looking under there, and it'll say Rooted in Reading, and then go to your grade. Now, there's different ways that you can store these, and we will talk about it later. One way is through a notebook, and I'm just going to go through it very quickly. And of course, she's just put hers in a notebook. Miss Tucker, she preferred a notebook, and when you print it, you're going to see it's going to give you the whole thing. This is the first one for first grade. It talks about school's first day, and it has your reading, vocabulary, grammar for the whole day. And it's just an overview that tells you what to do. And then you're going to see that there is so many things that you're not going to be able to do every single thing. But this is a good thing because everybody can pick out what they need. So there's lots of worksheets. There's also always a reading comprehension and a comprehension checklist that goes along with the story. You're going to see me use these. These are like our anchor charts that's going to teach about the lesson. And then that's, of course, the answer guide. And then you're going to see, like, you can talk about parts of a book and do that. And it shows you. It has the anchor chart, and then it has everything that you would need to make it, and also for the kids to make it. It always has a nonfiction, and we'll talk about that later. And with that, there's also another anchor chart that has all the visuals with it and examples. And it always has a direct drawing that comes with it, and you can do that with the children. And then it's a writing element. Everything has a writing element that goes along with it after you teach it. And there's different ones. So for the directed drawing, you could even start with the circle page, or you could start with the plain page. But it always gives the kids a start page also. And then you can talk about school's first day of school. Then you can cut it up this way, or they can draw and write about it. There's lots of difference on the first day of school. There's all different examples. These are our vocabulary words, and we're going to talk about that element in a minute. And then after you go over the vocabulary words, there's also tests, fill in the blank, or where they have the words and the pictures. So there's 2 types of vocabulary. Then on the grammar, you can see there's some games there. There's writing there. This is for this book. It's not each book, every book, but they'll have whatever grammar you're studying. They'll have you activities. They will have cut and glue sorts. And then again, they are having different activities, sentence scrambles, letters. This again is the anchor chart, talking about consonants and vowels. This is just for this one. And then you can see. Now, we always run off our nonfiction book, and you can run it off as you see. This is just, it always has a table of contents, and we do it this way. You can also run it off back and forward, and it doesn't bleed through if you want to save paper, and we just laminate it and do it like this. So I've sort of showed you what's going to be on your, for one book. You will have all this stuff. Now I'm going to sort of go through it and show you how a week may go in the book. And like I said, you saw that this was a notebook. Another way, some teachers grabbed and did a single folder and put all their stuff in for the book. Some teachers put each of their books in a gallon Ziploc bag and then got the gallon Ziploc bag and did it for a whole month. So there's lots of different ways for storage, but I think you're going to want to come up with a way to do storage so that you can get to these easily. So let's start as if today is Monday. And so on Monday, you're going to introduce the book, and I'm going to just do our school's first day of school. Now, when you do this, they have you questions. And the questions start out before reading, during reading, and even after reading. Now, you know, I'm going to be giving you my preference, but that is not the be-all way. I may give a couple of questions on the before reading, and then I'm going to read it for the first time. And I may ask one or two questions. And so then I come back, and I'm going to read it for a second time, and then I'm going to get more in depth with my questions. And then the third time, sometimes we read it, sometimes we watch it on YouTube, sometimes we listen to it. So we're listening to our book. Now, on the first day, that's my first thing that I do. I read the book. I don't really even talk about the vocabulary or anything. Some people like to talk about the vocabulary first. But after I've read it the first time we've talked about it, I may introduce the vocabulary. Now, the vocabulary comes, you'll have these charts. They're in full color. And for the week, I always put my vocabulary up on the board, and I talk about them. And then, as we're reading the book later in the week, they're going to be finding the vocabulary, and they're going to be telling you, oh, that's one of our vocabulary words. So, we go over the vocabulary words. The vocabulary words will come to you on a page. I did this year and loved it. We did a vocabulary book. What we did was, at first, we taught, these are the first week, all we worked on was gluing the vocabulary word in the book and talked about the meaning. I mean, you know, babies at first, you start in baby steps. We just talked about how to glue it on there, and we did different colors. Then, as you can see, by the second week, we started drawing pictures. Just simple pictures. All they had to do, now I would teach it as you do a vocabulary lesson, but as far as what my kids were doing, they were just drawing and it gives you an example. Draw the most delicious food you've ever tasted. Well, obviously, his was pizza. So, sometimes, then we moved on, and we're still drawing, and then we moved to writing. Name and draw 3 things that are stunning. Peacocks, automobiles, and cards. And so he's drawing those things because it's not always write about it. Write about the game of hide and seek. And he just put find someone. And then we moved on to where, where they're writing sentences. You can see that now he's capitalizing and he's putting a period. So, and then drawing the picture. So I loved the vocabulary books. And they're already ready. I mean, all you have to do is go through. There's 5 on a sheet. And you're ready to cut and do. And I usually just do, 5 days. I might do 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, 1 on Thursday. But, so we're talking about the vocabulary words, and that's a good way to do those. You're also going to have your anchor charts. And your anchor charts are going to be your skills. And I usually, the way I did was I just wrote what we were studying on our target. And of course today we were talking about book jobs, and we were talking about book love, how to handle a book, and then how we should treat books like our friends. This obviously is the first. We also talked about there's consonants and vowels, so I would put that on there also. And these I also put up on the board just because I love to do a lot of reviewing. So I would have these up on my chart also. So every day I could come in and I could review. So I went through Monday. All I have done is read the books, maybe introduced the vocabulary, and talked about the book. On Tuesday, I read the book again, and then whatever our skill was. This is talking about the parts of a book. Now, if you will look, it will have an anchor chart, and like I said, these letters, all this is already there. Sometimes we do it in color, sometimes we do not. And when you do the parts of a book, it gives you exactly what your anchor chart can look like. So it's right there for you, and everything's there. Now, the kids can do this, or they cannot do, they can just talk about the labels. A lot of times once you're moving on, they're going to be telling you about the parts of the book, and you will have a lot of little like sticky notes that you can put on it that they will have made for you. So that's Tuesday. We've talked about our skill, we're working on our skill, and we're doing a chart and writing. Now normally on Wednesday, sometimes Thursday, depending on your schedule, we introduced the nonfiction. And the nonfiction, we talked about a lot of different things, the table of contents, and then we talk about it. And in this one, I normally did my chart. And again, it has exactly what your chart will look like. What your one-room chart will look like. I've got it. It's right here, and this has some of those. So you can see how you're going to do that, and you're going to write something you learned about the one-room schoolhouse. Now, if you're looking, they also have this schoolhouse that is made. That is your art project. I normally do my art project on Friday, but they've already wrote about the one-room schoolhouse. They may have just wrote one fact. Well, then by Friday, I'm looking, and we've got this chart we're reviewing. We're talking about our data, and they can write and do more than one, and they normally make a one-room schoolhouse for the craft on Friday, and they're even writing more. But they've learned that because they have already been talking about it on the charts. So this is Wednesday. So, and of course, obviously, then I go and pick up my vocabulary, and I'll do that. So here comes Thursday. Now, I'm reading the schoolhouse books, school's first day of school. I'm still reading it every day and reviewing. And after Wednesday, I'm reading this book and this book to them every day. And we're talking about it, and we're digging deeper. So on Thursday, normally I read it, we finished our vocabulary, we talked about our skills, and on Thursday, a lot of times I did the direct drawing because it always reverts back to our skill. So, and we know that directed drawings are so good for children's fine motor, and they're talking about themselves in this one, all about me. And then they could even do this sheet that talks about their favorite food, favorite color, money. So it's going to have a good activity sheet that they can do along with their directed drawing. And so that's usually my Thursday lesson. And I'm still doing these, but again, this can be your independent work once you move on to small groups. And I know you're not doing small groups the first week of school or a sort, but at some point we're going to need some time to be working with the different kids. So we're on Thursday. Now, my Friday, I always reread my books, especially in the morning. And later on in the school year, I will give them their comprehension test. And on Friday is when I do the art. I do this little schoolhouse. I'm letting them walk. I'm letting them talk about it. I'm letting them cut and glue and make the craft. I'm also on Friday at school. The first few weeks, we're not going to give tests and give grades in first grade. So we may go ahead and do that vocabulary book. After we review our vocabulary, we may do the vocabulary page. But I'm not going to grade it. We're going to do it together. We're going to talk about it together and work on it so that everybody understands how to do it. So I hope what you see, even though it's a lot of stuff, the kids are so excited about it. The kids love it because it is real literature. You're doing things. And one thing that's been really neat at our school last year was we had the second grade doing it also. And we usually put these charts, sometimes we put these charts out in the hall, especially after the week. Sometimes we do it during the week, sometimes we move until after the next week. And the kids got to understanding, oh, wow. And they would go to the second grade hall and they would see their charts and they would know what they were doing. It would be with a different book, but they would start going, oh, look at that. It's about a famous basketball player. It's about this. And they would start looking at their charts and trying to read their data. And, you know, it was just a teachable moment because you're going down the halls and you're seeing other displays. Look, they did a directed drawing. So it is one thing. It covers the skills and the students love it. Now, I will say this. We started out with Haggerty, usually in the morning. Then we went to Reading Horizons, and this was the third thing. And the students a lot of times would really stay on focus for the other two because they knew if Reading Horizons took a lot longer, then that's going to cut into their Rooted and Reading time. So we wanted to make sure that they got to that because the kids loved it. And then after they've got that and they're writing and doing things like that or working in their journals, then that allows you to work on your skill pages, and then we went straight on into small groups. So I hope this gave you a good idea not to panic, not to be overwhelmed. This is something that is fun. The kids will love it. Everything's there for you. But the main thing is you haven't got to do it all. You've got to fit it for your classroom. Now, if you have any questions, I am going to tell you my phone number, and you are welcome to call me. It's 256-810-3547. And you're welcome to call, and I'd be glad to come in your classroom, help you get things organized, or do anything with you. Thank you.